Now here's your host, Pastor Paul Begley.
Welcome. This is the Coming Apocalypse. I'm Pastor Paul Begley, and today we are going to get into some areas of prophecy that are on the verge of happening right now. First of all, I'll be interviewed. That's right, I'll be interviewed by Stephen Ben Danoon in Jerusalem. Actually, and as we'll be standing there with the golden menorah right behind us. It's solid gold, and it will be used. It's the exact menorah that will go in the third temple when it is built. After the Temple Institute built this solid gold menorah, they decided to move it, and to move it as close to the Temple Mount as they could, within eye distance of the Temple Mount, to build the faith of the people of Israel that one day the temple would be built. It's a powerful interview. He'll be talking to me about the two-state solution. He'll be talking to me about the fact that I had just interviewed Rabbi Yehuda Glick in the Knesset, and Glick had brought forth some powerful information. So, having said that, let me set the stage for you with one verse. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Rebekah was pregnant. She was barren for a long time. And of course, when she did get, Isaac had asked God to give him a child through Rebekah, his wife. She got pregnant, and she had twins, two children in her womb, and they were wrestling in her womb. And when she gave birth, they weren't just two boys, they were two nations. And those two groups of people, the Jews and the Palestinians, are battling for that land right now. I'll be back in a few moments, but first, let's go right now to the interview. I want to invite you to come with me on the Sea Tours to Israel. It's going to be powerful. This coming up this November, the 9th through the 18th. It's going to be a powerful time in the Holy Lands. I mean, you can be baptized in the Jordan River. You can renew your wedding vows at the marriage of Cana, where Jesus turned the water into wine. You can take communion with me at the Garden Tomb. I mean, this will be a powerful time. Now, call the number on the screen and say, I'm going with Paul Begley to Israel.
Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live here in Jerusalem. The menorah in the background here, the one that'll be used in the third temple, once that is actually constructed. And we're going to be talking about that tonight with Pastor Paul Begley from the United States. Is a television channel, The Coming Apocalypse, as well as his YouTube channel, Paul Begley 34. Brother Begley, God bless you, my brother, and
Praise
thank
God.
you for being on here with us.
It's an honor.
And Pastor Begley happened to be at the Knesset, and I actually was there with him when interviewing Rabbi Yehuda Glick at the Knesset about the two-state solution. And Pastor Begley, can you tell us a little bit about what was said in that interview?
You know, in the conversation, what happened is the United Nations, basically 20 nations of the world have gathered in France, and we're working on a two-state solution that would be a resolution brought before the UN that would be voted on. They want to vote it on to do a forcible two-state solution. The problem is, I said to Yehuda Glick, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, I said, you know, Israel's not at the table, and neither is the Palestinians. So do you realize that they're trying to force this two-state solution? And he was pretty adamant, I mean, very adamant, that, look, they had their chance in 1947, they had their chance in 1967, they had their chance in the year 2000. And it failed. It's over. No more two-state solution. And so he even mentioned about the fact that how can you have a marriage unless there's a groom and a bridegroom?
Yes, he was actually quoting Prime Minister Netanyahu in his remarks what he had said about the two states, or the French meeting there in France, when he had actually stated that you cannot have a marriage without a bride and a bridegroom. That's where he actually takes that from. And what's fascinating is when this interview, we were there helping you film the interview with Rabbi Glick, and I like to fell out of the seat when I heard him say, it's over. There is no more two-state. And he's, like you said, he named the dates, 1947, just before they fought for the independence. And that's interesting in itself. A lot of people may not realize, why would they be talking about two states back then? This was because the British mandate had already given what would be the Palestinians today the land in Jordan, because there was a mandate for the for the Arabic people living in this land to live in the country of Jordan. There was no country of Jordan.
No.
So this was their chance then, but they did not go. Just
Right.
as the British mandate had given the Jewish people their own place, their own state. And what happened in 1948, the Jewish people ended up having to fight for that right to have their own state there.
Right.
Now, we did an interview, Pastor Begley, with Shimon Tov. You had also interviewed him
Yes.
as well. And he brought out something that just stunned both of us, because you were there as well. And Shimon Tov said that he didn't give the date. We're assuming it was the year 2000. But he was, back when Ariel Sharon was Prime Minister of Israel, he shared with us that that one lady that was in the cabinet meeting there with United States delegation, also, I believe it was Palestinians were there as well, other people were there, and a two-state solution was actually signed that day. Now, she contacted Brother Shimon Tov, weeping uncontrollably.
Yes.
And you are a witness to this as well as I am,
Yes.
of what he said, weeping uncontrollably. When he calmed her down, she said to him, because he asked, why are you weeping like this? She says, I just witnessed a two-state solution deal has been signed. Can you elaborate on what you heard as well?
I heard him say it, and he said it with such, basically he was to the point where he was reacting again, as if he heard it again for the first time. It had been 16 years, I'm assuming, and he said she literally was distraught because she knew the significance of a two-state solution. And now when this thing was secretly signed, it was to be implemented over time. What's amazing about that is throughout the city, every year I come back here, there's more and more and more changes. What looks like potential border crossings in the middle of areas that should never worry about a border. Okay, yes. So we're seeing a lot of new infrastructure, new signage in the old city. There seems to be an atmosphere of slowly boiling Israel into a two-state solution. It's almost like you can see it happening without anybody saying it. It's hid in plain sight. And I heard him say that. This is a very reputable man. Believe me, he's not going to lie about that. And
Exactly.
So something happened under Ariel Sharon and Shimon Peres. Something happened in that meeting that may been in the process of still trying to be implemented. And I think your current prime minister now, Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as now the new Knesset member, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, and others are building a coalition of digging in their heels and saying, no, it's over.
I agree with you. You know, myself as well as Pastor Begley, we both aired programs regarding the news on, I brought out the side from Shimon Tov, as well as the information of what Rabbi Yehuda Glick had said. Pastor Begley had given us permission with Israeli News Live to be able to air the footage from Rabbi Yehuda Glick, where he was saying basically that the two-state deal was dead. But let me just share something with you, though, in light of that. It brought a lot of confusion around, because I had titled my own video, "A two-state solution," or the two-state solution has been signed. Sounded like an explosion in the background there.
I heard that.
A gunshot a minute ago, but now it looks like a small explosion there. But anyway, then Pastor Begley had did his video, and your title of your video was
Two-state solution is dead.
And everybody was saying, they were writing us both, wait a minute, you guys are, you both are supposed to be in agreement pretty much on everything, and now it sounds like you're doing differently. And what it was Pastor Begley was bringing out only Yehuda Glick's side. He has not brought out the part from Shimon Tov as of yet. He will, though. He has the footage of that video, which we have not aired as yet either, the interview, but that will air later this week. Brother Begley, no telling when he'll air it, but he'll be airing it pretty soon as well. And we want you to hear that. But here's what's interesting that I noticed in the interview, Brother Begley. When I was listening to Rabbi Yehuda Glick, and Rabbi Yehuda Glick, he brought out, when he was talking about, he said there's no two-state solution anymore. I did not catch that when he first said it, but when I heard it then, Pastor Begley, especially afterwards, this was only hindsight, I was beginning to think, wait a minute, they know about what happened with Ariel Sharon.
Right.
And now this is normally, let me just say this here, because I always like to look at the prophecy behind what's going on here. But when you look at Daniel, the prophet of Israel, and we look at what Daniel said in chapter 11 and verse 14, he speaks about in there, in English, in the KJV, the Bible that most Christians use, you don't catch the full meaning of it. You have to go to Hebrew, but it literally says this, the angel Gabriel says to Daniel, the sons of the lawless will actually try to marry the vision. I couldn't help but think when he quoted Prime Minister Netanyahu, that when he says that, I thought of Daniel 11. I like to fell out of my seat because I know that's what he says, the sons of the lawless. Now, Rabbi Glick and Prime Minister Netanyahu are not the sons of the lawless. Now, I want to make sure that's clear. But here's the thing, though. I always knew Shimon Peres, who had sold out to Israel, in doing these agreements with the Palestinians, was definitely one of those sons of the lawless. When I heard that Ariel Sharon had signed that two-state solution in contradiction to Joel's prophecy that we're not to divide the land, I became very seriously concerned, and I could not help but wonder, was that the sons of the lawless? But then I also knew, Pastor Begley, that the marriage that Prime Minister Netanyahu was talking about, that you can't have, without the bride and bridegroom, you can't have the marriage.
Right.
Now we knew what that marriage of that vision was all about. We were literally looking at the vision. Right. And that marriage, by the way, is in Isaiah 61 and chapter 62. It's the restoration of Israel as a nation, and they're trying to bring it about without the coming of the Mashiach. And that is Yeshua, who we know. Brother Begley, kind of comment on these things as well.
Well, you know, it's amazing because you picked up on that when he said that in that interview with Yehuda Glick. And the fact that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had already made this a very emphasis on this marriage, and that they had tried and tried. Matter of fact, I even thought back to when John Kerry, the Secretary of State, did the 9-month, when he said, okay, we're going to take 9 months to see if we can deliver these two-state solution. Well, I knew there was prophecy that talked about Rebecca when she was pregnant, and how that the Lord said to her, and she was struggling with the pregnancy, and she said, Lord, you know, she went to the Lord, inquired of the Lord, and the Lord said, in your womb is 2 nations and 2 manner of people. Now, when you think about that, I think they actually thought, the Obama administration, that he could take these 9 months and birth these 2 nations. Yes. But you see, prophecy doesn't work that way. It doesn't work on man's timetable. It works on God's. And so even though Ariel Sharon, let's say, and Sharon Peres and some of the others, and there were American delegation there as well as European delegation, and who knows, maybe Rome was there, I don't know. But one thing's for sure, they thought this two-state solution, they're trying to birth it over maybe a 20-year period.
Yes.
And Obama wanted to birth it in 9 months. Look, God already warned against this. You don't want to touch the apple of God's eye. You're not going to do this. So there will be a division, but you read about it in Zechariah 14, and it's more of a attack that comes upon this city right here. Yes. Half the city falls temporarily. It looks like it's going to completely fall, but the Lord will fight the battle, and nowhere do I really read of where it will be divided. Certainly God's not intending that it happen. If there is a compromise, it will be maybe to build the 3rd temple, and that's the only way I can see that ever really coming about. And that might be after maybe a war like a Psalms 83 war. I don't know, but I see right now there's an attitude in this nation digging in their heels.
Yes.
There's going to have to be, you're going to have to pry it out of their hands, and I don't see that happening very easily.